Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 12 of Our Life Beginnings and Always. We are going to go through another moment today. We're doing the charity moment. I wonder if it's that ocean one they're working with. Has to be. There was some sort of event they mentioned earlier. I do remember that. So maybe it's that. So let's get started. He's got his orca shirt on. That must be it. Cove pushed himself to his feet from where he had been bent down in the sand, stretching out his back and groaning softly. A tired breath slipped past his lips as he wiped his brow, looking out over the shore. Looks great. You stood beside him, joining in the surveying of the sand that almost seemed to sparkle beneath the midday sun. The two of you had been out on the beach since sunrise, cleaning up and down the beach looking for various debris, and the work had paid off. Using a hand to shield your eyes from the blinding... Wear sunglasses! What's wrong with you? Using a hand to shield your eyes from the blinding rays, you glanced across the way where the other volunteers from Orca were gathered. They were easily recognizable by the high-vis vests they wore. It looked as though everyone was about ready to wrap things up for the day. Let's see. This would be true. And probably this would be true. We're exhausted. It's hot. Sweaty. Whiny. Why not? It's been a long day. Let's hope more people learn the joy of putting trash where it belongs. Doubt. Big doubt. You nodded in agreement, reaching for your drink bottle and gulping down the cool water inside. Though you knew the work you were doing was for a good cause, being out in the heat all morning had been slowly draining your energy until you had next to nothing left. Cove placed his hands on his hips, a pleased grin pulling at the corners of his mouth. He admired the work you'd both done. You had begun to realize during your time volunteering for the organization how seriously Cove took his service. It was easy to see that it was something important to him. He enjoyed the work, but mostly wanted to have a good time. Being part of an organization like Orca meant you got to meet different people and go to all sorts of places you might not have had the chance to usually. We did a nice job today. It's been a good year so far. It's crazy to think that it's already time to push the big event. You let out a big breath, thinking of the formal dinner that Orca organized every year. Being a completely fundraising-focused event for large donors was crucial for the organization's projects in the year to come. You had to be over 18 to attend, so this was your first opportunity to actually see it in person. All you had heard about it so far was that it was a prim and proper occasion with speeches and everything. You didn't know what else to expect from it, as you weren't a part of the group who planned the evening. Well, that would be kind of rude, right? You have these kids planning it, and then you're like, no, you can't go. I'm sorry. Before the big night came around, the volunteers would have to sell tickets for it, and that's where you'd be helping. Let's see. Both of these would probably be true. You know what? That's not what I meant. Hey, listen. We're almost done with this game, and I just learned you can choose again. Oops. We'll be excited. Because I think you, according to this, right, you volunteered all the way through high school, so you probably heard about it every year, and I feel like you'd be stoked, right? You rocked back and forth on the balls of your feet as you thought of the glitz and glam of the evening. Cove nodded, but something about his smile seemed strained. I'm glad you are. I just don't feel excited about attending a super formal meal with proper etiquette and stuff, you know? Threw his arms out to the side, making a big show at how ridiculous it seemed to him. I've got sand all over my room, and only one nice shirt, and I go barefoot pretty much whenever I can. I'm going to be so out of place. It's one night. These are my genuine feelings, but we'll see. We'll say that. Doing something that fancy will make it fun. How often do we get the chance to dress up nice or eat an expensive meal? Cove chuckled and shook his head at you in amusement. A small beeping noise came from Cove's pant pocket And he pulled it out and glanced at the screen. Huh? The organizers, they've sent a text to the group. Time to call it a day here. Finally, let's move on. Cove tucked his cell away eagerly, turning to you. Let's head over and drop the trash bags off at the trucks. Then we can drive back and join the ticket team. We've got to be there pretty soon to relieve them. With a stretch of the shore this long, the plan was to switch places with the other team who had begun pushing the tickets for the fundraising dinner halfway through. It would be a full day of work, but it was Orca's largest event of the year, and all hands were on deck to make sure it was a success. You nudged your shoulder against Cove's. He chuckled and nudged you back playfully with his now free hand. He collected the trash bags spread along the way together, heading across the beach to hoist them into the trucks before heading off to the next job. Cove slipped his warm hand into yours, and you intertwined your fingers, strolling back to the car side by side. The drive back to your neighborhood and making your way to the shopping street was fairly quick, though Cove stressed a little about being late. Luckily, he was able to find a parking spot nice and close to where you needed to be. You jumped out of the car and quickly went towards where you knew the group would be. Finally reaching the stall that was set up to sell tickets, you stopped for a moment to catch your breath. That was quite the flurry of activity. It would be your job for the rest of the afternoon to help you sell tickets for the fundraising dinner. Looking around the street, you saw that there were plenty of potential buyers out that day. That would hopefully help to move the tickets along. Do you sell it the day of? I hope y'all have been pushing them sooner. That seems like a lot. The stall itself was simple, a portable table with just a few plush sea animals as decorations and a banner stuck across the front. There were 2 volunteers who were already packing up and getting ready to head off to the beach. They both gave you a friendly smile as you arrived. Hey Cove, Mandy, how'd things go at the beach? It was good. The place is looking great. We're lucky to get a 2-for-1 when it comes to you guys. Cove cleared his throat awkwardly from beside you. You noticed his cheeks flushing pink. Here we go again. I would probably just laugh it off. Always happy to be of service. Well, we're happy to have you around. Cove seemed to relax a little more after that, giving the volunteers a small smile. The volunteers made room for you and Cove behind the table, while they circled around to the front of it. Thanks for coming in for a shift. We better make this quick so we can head off to the next place. No problem. What do you need us to do? You mumbled a reply, content to sit back and let Cove deal with the handover. One of the volunteers handed you a clipboard with all the details needed to sell tickets, while the other tossed a set of keys to Cove, which he caught with ease. These are for the money box and supply kit. Make sure to keep them on you at all times. He's gonna lose the keys. Is he gonna lose the keys? Aside from handling the cash for the tickets, there's also a form on the clipboard for the guests to fill in their info. That way we know how many tickets we've sold and who will be attending the event. There's a small script beneath that if you get stuck for what to say. That's about it. Pretty simple, huh? I think we've got this. Satisfied that you knew what you were doing, the volunteers said their goodbyes and started walking away, leaving you and Cove to manage the stall alone. The keys jingled in his hand as Cove waved them off, before stuffing them into the pocket of his pants for safekeeping. Bye, have fun. Once the volunteers were out of sight, Cove dropped down into a chair behind the counter with a sigh. We made it here just in time. It's cool we traded places with nothing happening. They might have been late getting to clean up duty. He leaned back in his seat, getting fully comfortable in the space, gave you a small smile. He took the other seat. It was just a simple plastic chair that squeaked when you sat on it, but it gave you a good view of the street. Who would say that things could still go wrong? Let's think about that. We've got things under control. Look at how well we did with the beach cleanup. I'm sure this will be a piece of cake. Cove grinned wider, his gaze pleased as he smiled at you. I like the way you think. Cove rummaged around the station a little, picking up a stuffed toy orca and holding it up in front of his face. You had to admit that it was pretty cute, with its big bulging eyes and oversized flippers. Setting it back down on top of the table, Cove moved to check out the rest of the stall. finding a cooler stashed beneath the table. When he pulled it out and opened the lid, you could see that it was filled with half-melted ice cubes and about a dozen bottles of water. Grabbing one of the plastic bottles, he unscrewed the cap and took a long drink. You watched the condensation running along the side and onto his fingers.
So?
You want one? Cove set his water on his side of the table before pulling out another, holding it towards you. I mean, it's hot. Thanks. Also, should we talk about the plastic water bottles? Doesn't seem very, beach, nature friendly. Just saying. After opening it up, you took a drink and let out a satisfied sigh. You hadn't realized how thirsty you had been. It was always good to stay hydrated. So true, so wise. The two of you got settled in easily. You took the chance to look over the paperwork on the clipboard. Cove joined you, leaning over your shoulder to get a better look. Seems like pretty standard stuff, he muttered. You nodded quietly. It had general info about the event and the work you needed to do at the stall, as well as the amount of tickets sold thus far, the number remaining. Cove tapped a finger on the counter as he read quietly over the notes, muttering a few things now and then that you didn't fully hear. He seemed content to be there. You were sure that the afternoon would pass by quickly. When he glanced out towards the crowd and made a small sound, you followed his line of sight to see that a potential supporter was on their way over to the booth. That one. This could be your first ticket sale of the day. You had to give it all you had to make sure the event was a success. Hi, how are you doing today? Time passed as the two of you manned the stall, and as people approached, your sales pitch would either have them asking for a ticket or two, or heading off and mumbling maybe next time. All in all, you managed to sell a decent amount of tickets. You could tell that Cove was happy with the outcome. As the afternoon drifted along, 6 p.m. arrived, time to pack everything up, head home for the evening. Your work with Orca was far from over, but right now there was only thing left to focus on, attending the actual event. The days continued on in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. It was early evening, and you were in your room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer towards the time you needed to leave. That makes sense. You stood in front of her, considering the different items, while she sat on the edge of your bed, lips pursed tight. She had given a firm yes or no to each item you showed her, which had now reduced your options into a small pile to choose from. The event had strict guidelines. You wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code, which meant having to find a truly professional outfit, but one that you were also happy with. You were happy to have the chance to dress fancy. There were a couple of outfits that didn't get nearly as much use as you would have liked. Now was the time to show them off. You smiled as you picked your way through the items, your excitement shining bright. You don't need to get too in your head about thinking about the look, but you do need to hurry up and pick something. It really shouldn't be this difficult to pick something out. You just need to take the plunge and do it. Taking a deep breath to refocus yourself, you looked over the options one last time. It was time to decide on an outfit, and quick. Easier. Liz nodded in approval, clapping her hands together, satisfied. Finally, we're making some progress. Standing in front of the mirror, you quietly assessed your outfit. Who doesn't like accessories? You needed a little something extra to finish it all off. Rummaging through the rest of your wardrobe, you picked out what you needed to complete your outfit. We'll do a necklace. Turning back to the mirror, you let Liz drape your best necklace around your neck and clasp it together at the back. A pair of earrings. You hurried to put on a pair of earrings to match your outfit, aware that time was running short. And then we gotta do an anklet. You had to quickly remove your shoes to slip on the anklet before stepping back into them again. That's probably it. With that, we're gonna put on makeup. Leaning up in front of the mirror again, you grabbed your makeup bag and applied what you needed. Okay, so we're gonna do foundation. Using a small sponge, you applied your base over your skin to help make it smooth and glowing. I'd be mad if they had primer. Do a little bronzer. A sun-kissed glow would work perfectly for your outfit. Dipping your brush in the bronzer, you dusted the golden color over the contours of your face. You need a little blush. Sweat blush across the apples of your cheeks. Eyeshadow. You chose a color to complement the rest of your look and swiped it over your eyelids, taking care to blend it well. So important. We'll do mascara. Your lashes fanned out like that, your eyes really stood out. Lipstick. You applied your lipstick carefully, smoothing your lips together to make sure the color was even. A little gloss. Popping the wand out of the tube, you applied a glossy sheen to your lips and puckered them together. Okay. I think that's fine. I can't imagine painting your nails in a rush. That sounds awful. Finally, you were dressed. It had all come together. Cove sent you a text saying he was heading to the car and would see you in a bit. When you looked at Liz again, she had a goofy smile pulling at her lips. You look very nice, Mandy. Listen, where is the option for it has pockets? Knowing you had made the right decision with everything you had you feeling more confident. Liz wiped a pretend tear away with her fingers, sniffling dramatically. Oh, precious Mandy, you're really all grown up. It happened in the blink of an eye when I wasn't even looking. She chuckled to herself, nudging you towards the door. All right, time to get downstairs. Your very official, though still kind of baby boyfriend waits. You carefully headed down the stairs and into the living room where your moms were waiting for your appearance. As you entered, they both stood on the... Did they... Okay. Probably not, is the impression I'm getting. Did they not do prom? I'm guessing no, because I feel like this is a very prom moment. As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look so wonderful, Mandy. Nice. And very mature, too. I know, right? They continued to coo and fuss over you until you managed to brush them off. Ma took Mom by the arm and held her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. We'll just say thank you and move along. It felt a little strange to have everyone's attention on you, but you liked it nonetheless. No. Liz smiled at you from where she stood, her expression soft. Ma came in to give you one last hug. Before you knew it, another pair of arms was wrapped around you, and then a third. Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. We hope you have so much fun tonight. We won't wait up for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. With a last wave goodbye, you left your family and approached the front door. It was time. Stepping out into the night, you closed the door behind you gently and looked out across the street. Cove was standing there in the street. His eyes met yours immediately, as if he had been watching your house for the moment you would come out. He smiled bashfully. Hey, Mandy. Hey, I hope you're ready to do this. He took the chance to check over his... He took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. It was formal for sure, though it didn't feel overly posh. Made sense for him and was honestly a sight for sore eyes. He was always beautiful to you. With a growing smile, he stepped closer, his cheeks reddening all the way down to his neck.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming with me and for dressing really nicely for this. Your outfit, it's just perfect. His gaze traveled downwards to take in your full form, and... He leaned in only inches away from your face to whisper in your ear, his warm breath tickling your skin. Of course you do, you dog. I like the ankle bracelet. Your cheeks went hot and you bit down on your lip to keep from smiling too much. Obviously. I thought you might appreciate it, and it's a special night. Cove squeezed his eyes shut and you peered at him adoringly as he mumbled to himself. Oh my god. Yeah, you never living it down, Buster. He moved away from you a couple of paces, running a hand over his face in exasperation. He had to try and play it cool, but couldn't keep it together. You started to wonder if it was a good idea after all. Cove acting like that was killing you, and you hadn't even started the trip to dinner yet. It took a great amount of effort to focus your thoughts, react to his overall assessment of your looks. Will be nice. Glanced over at him from head to toe, noting that his shirt, pants, and shoes were all shiny and new. He had put in effort and it showed. Couldn't stop himself from looking down in order to inspect his outfit now that you pointed it out, and to avoid having to face you directly after you did. But turning away did nothing to disguise how transparently pleased he was with the compliment. Thank you. Then he shook his head, glanced back towards the garage, and throwing a thumb over his shoulder, spoke. We should probably get going. Wouldn't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yeah, let's go. You headed over to Cove's car together, hopping in and strapping on your seatbelts. You were on your way. The event was being held at a place you'd never been to before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cove navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once there you met with the task of finding a parking spot. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already shown up and claimed the spaces. Eventually you found a suitable place, but realizing that it required payment. Cove covered the amount, taking a ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Despite the small holdup, you managed to ultimately make it to the event, confirmed you were on the guest list before being shown into the dining area. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling. The entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanic displays. You know, I bet you could put more money into your stuff if you didn't have to throw a big fancy gala. I'm just saying. Just saying. I'm kidding. I think they do raise like a lot more money if they do this, but let's be real. I'm like, sometimes it do be feeling like they're using all the money towards something ridiculous and then don't have enough money for the charity itself. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. So overdone. It's so nice. You had to be impressed by the work that had gone into making everything look this lovely, how everyone had dressed up in their best outfits for the night. Seeing Cove smile as he took in the sights made you think he must be feeling the same way. The sound of your names being called out echoed over the din in the room. When you looked around, you recognized a couple of the organization leaders looking your way. They approached you both in greeting, giving you a welcoming smile and a hello. Cove, Mandy, we're glad to see you could make it, especially after all the hard work you've done to help make this night happen.
Of course.
Definitely wasn't gonna miss it. I feel like that would be rude. This doesn't feel like a very good impression. We'll be thrilled. This place looks amazing. It's so nice to do something like this. Well, thank you for being a part of the team. You're our best power couple, that's for sure. You're always welcome to participate in more activities when they come up. Cove let out an awkward, breathy laugh and rubbed at the back of his neck. Good to know. Cove shrugged then, eyes darting around the place with an awkward look. I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people. This sounds like a nightmare. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around chatting while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between the guests, offering drinks and canapes. Oops, I went the wrong way. Cove approached various people as you wound your way through the guests. He managed broaching new conversations well. You were enjoying talking to so many different people. Not I. Both guests and members of the organization alike. You found yourself enjoying the company. The sound of a microphone crackling came from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assume must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't anyone that you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some more information about Orca, which you supposed was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid in the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group successful as it was. When she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen, Cove's name was one of the first to come up. His chest puffed out in pride at that. Your name then came up a little further down the list. You were smiling from ear to ear at the mention. She continued to thank the large donors for the event. You checked over at Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself and tapping his fingers over the top of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. You were excited for him. He had worked so hard to make this event happen. It was the least that he deserved. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of the guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over the dish with interest. You recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. The host quickly wrapped up the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Anyone who had included a special dietary note when signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian version, and there were also small baskets of bread set around the table. Listen, I'm neither of those, but they can leave the anchovies out of mine. I don't want it. No, thank you. I can't say no to bread. Salad in the bread. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching into a breadstick, quickly devouring that as well. The next part comes out soon and is bigger. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hand midair, he quickly pulled back and rested it on his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel unsure of himself. He looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms and turned away from them to you. There we go. He folded his arms and turned away from them to you. Hey, did you like the salad? It's a little too fishy for me, thank you so much. It's alright. I've had better. Damn, okay. Listen, that was my passive way of noting that I don't want the anchovies in there. No, thank you. The fact that they brought up a vegetarian option really made me go, ooh, I don't want it. His gaze remained purposely tunneled on you, as if he was trying not to even think about the rest of the table. What the rest of the table might be doing. Eating? Probably talking? Just a guess. We're gonna give him a bread. Listen, it doesn't have to be that. It's okay. We gave him a breadstick. Oh, thank you. Ko spoke gently as he took the bread from your hand, looking choked up by your reassurance. Brother, keep it together. He munched away on it happily, seeming much more at ease. Wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes were all being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. You know what? I did not consider, what if it was a chicken Caesar salad? That is a possibility. Okay. Obviously steak, right? It was nice that you had been given the option of how you liked your steak cooked, and the meal on the plate in front of you seemed perfectly to your taste. Cove had gone for the steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. I don't want to embarrass him here because he seems real sensitive. We'll just focus on our own food. It was going to be a full evening, so you wanted to try eating something while you could. Dinner eventually ended, and last of all was dessert, a lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white with bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. Listen, I don't know why I assumed that would be yellow, but I guess it is not. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was the price to pay for artistry. He turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Digging into the dessert, it took him only a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely even begun eating. An unimpressed air settled over him as he sat back in his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. We can get more dessert later, that's fine. You gave him an encouraging smile. He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for a defense. It was just really good, that's all, and now it's gone, but I'm okay. Okay, I'm glad you'll recover. You'll recoup from this. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he was really fine. Hey, you can have a bite. You scooped up a spoonful of your sorbet and offered it to him, holding a hand beneath it to avoid any drips. His eyes widened as he eyed the dessert hungrily, surprised by the offer. Recovering quickly, he leaned forward over the table, lifting out of the chair a little as he ate the treat from your spoon. As he sat back, humming happily with his mouth full, you couldn't help but smile at the sight. Cove swallowed the faux ocean and let out a satisfied sigh. Even though it wasn't that much more, the simple fact that he had gotten more hit the spot. Thanks, Mandy. You're welcome. You were pleased to see he was perkier. You went back to eating the rest of your dessert. Another person from Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. They spoke mostly about individual projects that the organization was working on, their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging anyone who was interested to consider volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with his chin balanced on a hand, listening attentively to their words. As they came to a conclusion, everyone gave them a round of applause. Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wondered what would happen now. And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water light effect around the room. The guests gushed over the ambiance, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ that had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background announced the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. When you glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up and he mumbled quietly, "Listen, okay, I'm gonna give y'all a bad joke. You can't dance, you can't go in the water for 30 minutes after eating. Cause the lights. Okay, I'll go." I didn't know there would be dancing. I guess it makes sense now that I think about it. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched as people rose from their seats. It's clear now that many of the donors were couples. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove let his gaze float over the small sea of guests who were moving onto the floor, his hands twisting in his lap as his lips pulled into a tight line. Then, with a breath and the lift of his hand, he turned to you. "Wanna dance with me?" "No!" Could you imagine? He would be destroyed. Of course. His face lit up. You could tell, even beneath the dim light. Accepting Cove's outstretched hand, you rose from your seats together and stepped out onto the floor. When you had found a spot for yourselves amongst the other guests, you turned and faced him standing close. Cove gave you a small smile as you looked up at him. You seemed a little nervous. "I don't know how to dance, not for real," he admitted with a slight squeeze to your hand and a sheepish look. You gave him a reassuring grin and nudged a little closer to him still. "It's okay, I know." "I do not. Don't lie." With a familiar face full of affection, he let go of you and raised his arms to slide both of his hands behind your neck. You wrapped your arms around him in response. Together, you gently swayed to the music, moving your feet in time to the delicate beat. was nice just to be here like this, in each other's arms. You didn't have to worry about whether you knew the right steps or not. There was always a way to make it work between the two of you. Cove leaned his head nearer to yours, his forehead so close to yours that they almost touched. His breath was warm as he let out a contented sigh, tickling your skin. You really do look so good tonight. You're such a beautiful woman. Thank you. You smiled widely, feeling your cheeks hotter at the compliment. Have you had a nice time? I hope you did. Listen, how could you, we just sat, we ate, it was fine. We'll be so charming. He let out a breathy giggle. His bright eyes stayed locked on yours, studying you with unmistakable adoration. Thank you for staying. You're still here, just like you promised you would be. Your heart felt light as you continued to sway whilst holding your most beloved person. So glad to be able to share a moment like this with him. A lot has happened, huh? You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if he meant just today, this summer, or your entire time knowing each other. But it didn't really matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Cove had been neighbors, it was difficult to even try and reflect on it all at once. I'm glad we ended up here. He gave you a soft look and beamed, knowing that could also mean many things, but from his tone, you were certain he didn't only mean here at this event. It was more than that. Yeah, we gotta say thanks to your dad for paying me. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. His smile widened and he pressed his body against yours, resting his head into the crook of your neck, stroking the back of your head with his fingers. You tightened your grip on him and let your head fall against his shoulder. As the night drifted on, you held each other tight, swaying to the music as if you were the only ones in the room. Cove was at a loss for words for a long time, enjoying the feeling, but you didn't mind. You were enjoying it too. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had Cove in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium on the stage, thanking all the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with Cove here was precious. At least the memories could be brought with you. Giving the space one more look, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. Though Cove was so tall you could always see him, it was easy enough not to get separated. The parking lot itself was big and even more noticeable now with fewer cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cove's car across its expanse. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet as you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was all over, just like that. Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourselves back in your neighborhood. Cove pulled his car into the driveway and put it in park before letting out a relieved breath. Home sweet home. Yeah. You're climbing out of the car, you walk slowly down to the road. Cove coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Strangely, he clamped his lips together as though he had suddenly thought better of it. We'll say thank you. Thanks for coming with me. Give him a little smoocheroonie. Needing to be close again before the night ended, you pressed your lips against his in a gentle kiss. He smiled as you separated, running his fingers over the side of your face. Night, Mandy. With a last wispy smile, he left towards his front door, figuring you shouldn't linger in the street for much longer. You crossed the remainder of your road and did the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. Opening the door a crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see he was doing the same, holding his front door open but waiting for you to get inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both stepped into your houses, locking the door behind you. It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed to your bedroom and changed out of your formal clothes into your pajamas. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in the darkness, while crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It was still strange to think about how that was it. The build-up to the event had felt like so much, and now it's completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. As unconsciousness creeped up on you, you felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you'd get to experience next. And then you were taken away from dreams right back into reality by a sound. Your eyebrows pinched together, fully unprepared to be a part of the waking world again. The day was over, and it had been an eventful one. But you heard another noise. It was a tapping. Your eyes flew open. There was a tapping that came from your window. Cove Holden. You went over to you gotta let the guy in. You extricated yourself from your bed, yawning. Listen, if I was half asleep and I got woken up, the last thing I would think to myself is I extricated myself from my bed. I crawled across the floor to the window. I want to sleep. Let me sleep. You stretched your arms and then made your way to the window. There was another tap right before you arrived. When you pulled it wide open, Cove was indeed there. You had not been surprised to find Cove awkwardly crouched on your window ledge. However, you were taken aback to see that he was a little overdressed. Cove hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed that he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if it was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean, or he felt weird about something. His body was too stiff and awkward. Cove smiled sheepishly. Hi, Mandy. Whoa, joke. It's nice to see you, Romeo. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hands for support. It was clear to you now he was holding something. When he was safely on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes, twisting around to see the back of his pants. He caught you looking and shrugged. I did go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to settle down, so I just walked back out. I needed fresh air and the time away from everything. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped hands together where you could see them. Then something happened, and well, so I have something I want to show you. Cove grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers, not being able to keep you in suspense for even a minute. I was gonna say it's a firefly. Carefully sitting inside was a tiny yellow light, blinked off and then on again. A firefly. Delicately, he moved his hand closer to you so you could see the creature better. They're back. He closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by the insect companion. Remember the first time I caught one? I always will. I could barely manage anything because of that neon pink cast I was stuck with all summer. You were still stunned by what was happening, but couldn't help snickering when Cove did. It was thanks to you that I finally held a firefly in my own hand. I was happy too. Honestly, I didn't think I'd see them this year. I don't know why, it's just they were kind of late, and I guess I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately. You could tell that the firefly genuinely lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share that with you. The fact that his first thought after discovering the fireflies was to come over and celebrate the joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Cove opened his eyes, but he looked away, not meeting yours. It's really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back. I can see them again. Listen, that will ruin the moment, that one. We smiled. Then you looked at the firefly keenly. There was definitely something poetic about them. You felt warmth in your heart. Cove looked at your face, his smile now fragile. Makes me think about the two of us. We're together, then we say goodbye, and then we're together again, day after day, year after year, and even if our time apart gets longer, doesn't make it forever. Mandy, I'll always be there. Whether you want, I was about to make it a threat. I'll always be there whether you want to see me or not. No. Mandy, I'll always be there whenever you want to see me. You were happy to be with him and you needed to know that. Alright. It's unbelievable that you're mine. Cove's eyebrows bent up and he smiled wider. His eyes started to water as a few tears dripped out. Boy loves a cry. His voice was full of affection, warm, delicate, clear, and everything that you cherished about Cove. He carefully raised his hand up to your face. The firefly perched on it flew off when he cupped your cheek. He didn't mind at all. I mind! There's a bug in my room. I don't like it. He didn't mind at all as he leaned into his caress. You felt content in the moment. He giggled, obviously getting flustered over all of this, and spoke quietly. Thank you, Mandy, for being with me. It's hard to find the right words. I'm just so happy. You make me so happy, more than anyone else. You're welcome. Could you imagine? Cove looked into your eyes with a soft, slightly shy expression. There was hope in his smile. You want to go to the hill with me? I bet there's still fireflies. Let's go. Cove brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret excursion before he suddenly became bashful. So how should we leave? We could just try the door. We don't have to do the window thing. But maybe that'd bother your family? You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your moms, or worse, Liz, saw you going on a midnight firefly catching trip. You'd be sure to avoid that. We'll go out the window. Cove nodded in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. You were glad that there was no way you'd run into another soul outside. Cove would be way overdressed and you were still in your jammies. You let Cove go first. He stepped back onto the ledge as you carefully followed. He shuffled along and soon you reached the garage. You planned to use the fence from there to reach the ground. Cove climbed down to the fence. He wobbled once, but he made it without issue. He leaned against the fence and projected hushed words up to where you were waiting. Do you want help? Y'all? I ain't trying to get hurt. You got to the edge and let Cove spot your descent. He grabbed you about halfway down and brought you to rest firmly on the ground. Cove gave you an encouraging smile, but neither of you risked speaking yet. You briskly snuck behind the house and up to the old white poppy hill. And Cove was right. The entire hill was lit up, insects twinkling here and there with their pale yellow light. Cove let out a contented sigh, finally able to relax in full. He strode further up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Cove plopped onto his back. He paid no mind, smacking his formal attire in the grass. He put an arm under his head and stretched out the rest of his limbs. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt there. We're just in our jammies. We can lay down. You sat down first, then fell back. You could see the stars when you looked up at the night sky. Got snuggle. He was warm in contrast to the chilly ground. Cove cuddled closer in turn, tucking his arm up near your shoulders. I wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass stains. He tugged at the collar of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. Maybe you should figure out how to clean it before he finds out. His smile bent a little, and it went silent between you. The only sounds were the rustling of bugs and the breeze, and the faraway crashes of waves on the sea. You couldn't help but reflect on what happened only a brief time earlier. Between this and your room, it almost felt like a different world. Was it even real? What happened between you two? You could almost be convinced it wasn't, that you had never actually stopped dreaming. You stole a glance at Cove. He caught you and blushed. That little reddening reassured you. Cove remembered the same as you. What you had was real. We're gonna catch fireflies, absolutely. We should catch fireflies, don't you think? Cove turned his head towards you with a bent grin. I think that sounds like a plan. You smiled at each other and Cove rolled his fancy sleeves up, then clambered up to his feet, full of bug-catching enthusiasm. You got up and brushed off your clothes. A pesky blade of grass tried to stay stuck on your back. With simultaneous nods of your heads, you both ran around the hill trying to take hold of the flying creatures. Every so often, one of you would succeed. Like the children you once were, you would race over to the other to show off your catch. What had actually changed? The fireflies were bright as ever, and you laughed together the entire time. The hour grew late, and the fireflies mostly dispersed, till only a few stragglers remained. Then even they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Cove and your thoughts. Cove stole a second to release the words that had been filling his head during the quiet. I'm so glad I get to be with you. You felt a great deal of happiness. Cove's expression was completely open, honest, and full of sincerity. He meant every word. No matter how much it didn't seem real yet, it was. It felt as though this was a night that would never end, but you knew it would have to, all too soon. You were only grateful to have been a part of it. These were moments truly to treasure. You'd never let yourself forget them. Aw, what a nice night. Aw, for cute. Okay, gang. We will stop here for today. We have one more moment, and then I guess end game, if I remember right. Because I think step 4, there's no like moments or anything. It just like wraps up the story, I think. So 2 more episodes, gang. I will see y'all back here next time. I had fun. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all later. Bye, gang. Love y'all.